can't even see. Let me try to zoom. Right there, where my head is. See my head right here? Right there. So how much we get? I don't think y'all can see it though. Hold on, okay, while I'm doing that, pick up where I left off. Live. Messed up, hold on.
Things that you're never to say about money. By the way, I'm going to give you this word. Here is a terrible word that a lot of people, almost everybody, uses concerning money that you need to wash right out of your vocabulary. Are you ready for this one? Okay, put it on the board for me, Terry. Write it big. You're never, ever again to say this about money. You can write it right under there, right on the side somewhere. Never again say spend money. Spend means it's done. I've gotten rid of it. I'm not going to see it anymore. Is that what I've been saying? Yes. When you say spend as long as the thought is formed in your mind, spend money, you are dismissing money from it. You're saying, get out of here, money. Don't ever think that way again. Now, let's have some confession and absolution here. Yes, we do have confession here, but we don't let you come into a booth and do it. You get your sins forgiven right out before everybody. How many of you used to use the term spend money? Let's see your hands. Don't do that anymore. Shake your head and look at the next person and say, don't do that anymore. Whenever Jesus healed someone, he would say, now go and sin no more. See, don't sin against money anymore. Now let's get into very briefly the semantics of circulating money. And I'm even going to give you something to put in your checkbook.
See that?
Something to say whenever you use money, whenever you pay money, so that it'll come back to you. Now, that tells us what circulate means. To circulate means what? Return to point of origin. Say that with me. Circulate means return to point of origin. All of the money that I use returns to me multiplied in a never-ending cycle of increase and enjoyment, thank God. That's a part of what I say at the offering at my church in New York. And by the way, you may use the term concerning money used, but I prefer circulate. You see, this way you've always got a hold of your money. It never gets away. It circulates. It goes over there and pays your light bill and comes back and brings more with it. Woo! Isn't that wonderful? stand up. We're going to talk to money right now. See, that's another thing, you know. Think of money as a psychic entity. Talk to it. Reverend Knight says that money has ears. Not only that, did you know that money is a woman? Somewhere in Reverend Ike's book, there's that old Irish proverb. And money swore
That's as
an
good as I
oath
can get it, y'all.
that nobody who did not love her would ever have her. So money is sensitive. It's sensitive to what you think. It's sensitive to what you say. You say, oh my God, I'm spending my money. It says, bye, fool. And you know what they say about a fool and his money?
Soon talk.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. We're going to find a way to apply this. Now listen. We're going to speak in other tongues about money. From this moment on, we're going to speak in other tongues about money.
See that?
What are we never going to say again about money? Never. Ever. Okay, come on, let's make a declaration. Come on, you get your foot stomping
Oh,
here.
fuck. I fucked it up.
Right here and right now. I
There we go.
cleanse my speech about money. I'll never again say that old dirty word about spending money. From this moment on, I will not spend my money. I circulate my money. The money that I pay my bills with. I circulate it. Whatever I do with money, I circulate it. And it returns to me multiplied.
That's not me moving, y'all. That's the
In a never-ending cycle
camera trying to focus.
of increase and enjoyment.
You see it moving up and
Thank
down.
God. All right, give yourselves a hand for that.
Let me see something back there.
Reminds me of the story of the man who was always sitting down on the corner, being nothing, doing nothing, and having nothing. So one day somebody said to him, man, why don't you get up from there and do something for yourself? And be something and have something. Guess what he said? He said, I've been down so long till getting up never crossed my mind. Let me hear you shout. You gotta think something. And you gotta do something. Now I want to have you read this again with me again before you sit down. Because I want you to do something. I want you to take a certain course of action. Whatever your situation may be, however good, bad, or indifferent, you can do something about it. You can always do something about your situation. Preach that to one another for a moment. Go ahead. You can always do something about your situation.
I want to pull it
Now
up to
look
the
on
head.
us and let's read this again. Here we go.
Chip
And I
out.
hope there's somebody watching right now. You're going to do something. I'm going to tell you some simple things that you can do.
Yeah.
So let me hear you say, you can do something for yourself. Now here it is. When you see those who have and those who have not, you also see those who did and those who did not. Now, are you going to be among those who did something about your condition? Are you going to do something? Are you going to think something? You know, if you want a different result, you have to think a different thought. You go right along thinking the same thoughts that you've been thinking. I can't, I don't have this, I got bad luck, I got that, and I need this, that, and the other. And you never think a new thought, and you never take a new action, you are never going to get a new result.
Mm-hmm.
So let me hear you tell one another here, you got to do something for yourself. You see, in Matthew, the 6th chapter, the 8th verse, Jesus tells us not to be like those people who be nothing, do nothing, and have nothing.
That's
Be
right.
you therefore not like unto them. Now, I'm going to say something, and I hope you will understand it. You really got to pray now. Are you ready for it? There's a saying that I repeat sometimes, and you have to understand this. Come on up spiritually and understand this, and repeat it after me. Watch the poor people. See what they do. And then, don't do it.
It's crazy out there. I want y'all to see it. Over here.
Now we're going to do the 4th step. Forgetting what you want, the 4th step. Toward breaking through, bringing out into the good that you desire to be, to do, and to have. And the number 4 is feel it. I don't have this tape here either because it's, frankly, to tell you the truth, it's one of my Pentecostal type tapes. And some of you meta magicians couldn't stand the excitement.
It is focused.
But
They
I'm going
just
to
be
put them on
jumping
the
up and
market
down.
too. But the name of that series is Feeling Gets the Blessing. Write that down because, again, it's the technique. Let me give you one of my mind science beliefs. I started to say theory, but it's not, it's past that. I believe that on the level of the subconscious, when an idea reaches the subconscious and is impressed upon the subconscious, that it is impressed upon the subconscious as feeling. We meditate, we pray, we study. Notice the way I told you to say the last affirmation. I just love to see you looking so good and prosperous. You look like infinite money. You get the feeling in that? It's called spirit, a soul. There is a story that my series of tapes, which are not here, is based on in the Bible. The story of Esau and Jacob. The theologians tell us that Esau, or Jacob, the younger brother, stole the blessing of Jacob, his older brother. It was the custom in that particular culture for the oldest son to receive the father's blessing before or upon his death. He got everything, and it was up to him to be the patriarch of the family from that time on and to take care of the mother and the brothers and sisters and so on. And
Just finish
Isaac,
this.
the father of Jacob and Esau, was blind.
It's a beer from Ecuador.
Now, that is an esoteric symbol
My new friend just said
telling
this to me.
us that the Lord is blind.
It's only
The
4%.
law is blind.
Shit's
You
good
ever
though.
see the blindfolded
Good,
picture of
good.
Lady Justice?
Like
You see,
sweet.
that is telling you the same thing. What does it mean? It means that the law does not care who you are.
Sweet.
The law of the Lord is no respecter of person. If you work with the principle will work for you. Well, anyway,
Now, we gonna get
the
into
younger son Jacob, who was not
That's that
traditionally
strawberry.
entitled to the blessing, came to the blind father while his older brother was out hunting.
this shit right here.
And the older brother was hairy, but the younger brother was smooth.
What's it called?
And the father told
Strawberry
them
smoothie.
apart by feeling the roughness of the hair
Same
and
thing
the
with a
smoothness of the younger man's son's skin.
that
And the
happiness,
mother,
baby.
when the older boy went hunting, favored the younger son and said to him, I have your brother's clothes in my house. Now, the mother here is
That
your
mango.
subjective intuition. It tells you that within you, you have spiritual subjective intuition that knows how to clothe you in the correct feeling nature so that you can get what you want from the Father of the source. Because you've got to feel right to the Father. You've got to feel right to the source. You see, the Father is going to be feeling you as you approach Him to see if you're the one that's entitled to the blessing. But, Mother, your indwelling spiritual intuition says, I have your brother's clothes in my house, and I'm going to put your brother's clothes on you, and I'm going to put sheepskin around your neck and around your arms, so that when the Father feels you, you will feel to the Father like the one who is entitled to the blessing.
Goddamn.
You have got to feel to the Father, the infinite source within you,
Shit right
like
here.
the one who is
This
entitled
shit
to the
right
blessing.
here, baby.
So, the
Shit
mother
good.
of subjective intuition dressed up the younger son, and he entered into the blind father. And the blind father asked him a question that life is always asking us. He said to him, are you my very son
Ice in the shit.
Esau? But you see, this was Jacob. And Jacob said, I am.
Shit right here, baby.
The theologians always call this a trick. They always call this a dirty trick. They don't get the esoteric interpretation at all. You know what that tells us? You are whoever you say you are. With no respect whatsoever to facts. That is some heavy stuff. Are you my very son Esau? The question further infers, are you the one who is entitled to this blessing that you desire? Life is always asking you that. The Father, the source, the infinite resource,
know what
the
time it
infinite
is.
supply of all good is asking each one of you, ladies and gentlemen, are you the one who is entitled to the good that you desire?
That's all I heard out there.
Makes no difference what boy it is. You see, on a factual level, it was the wrong boy. But the Father does not see whether it's the younger boy or the older boy, or a black boy or a white boy, or a brown boy or a red boy or a yellow boy. The Father does two things. The Father feels, and the Father
Light it
hears
is.
the word, I am. What you add am, you become. Terry on the other side, give me an I am over there and put a blank line.
We need some charge up in this
fill it in.
motherfucker.
You see, I am the beginning and the end.
We always got one on there.
Say, what I add to I am, I become.
Big
Let me
baby.
quickly finish treating briefly the story of Esau and Jacob.
Ah, you see that?
Now,
Galaxy.
when Jacob the younger sons answered, I am, he was saying, I am the one who is entitled to the blessing.
See that?
Then the father said to him, come close, my son, that I may feel you. Uh-oh. This tells us that in prayer, in meditation, in our treatment, as we say here, we treat what? For what reason? To make ourselves feel like the one who is entitled to the blessing. If you treat for good health, a healing, you treat yourself so that you bring yourself to that subjective point where you feel like the one who is entitled to good health. Life asks you, are you rich? And you are to answer, I am rich. Maybe you're sleeping on the streets and don't even have a place to go to. But life is asking you, are you my very son? Are you entitled to a mansion in Beverly Hills? And that's when you better learn how to speak the word. I am. But then the father says, after you answer, come close, my son. Let me feel you.
See if y'all can see this.
That's when you are glad that your mother, your subjective intuition has given you instructions and clothed you in the feeling nature of that one that you desire to be. Are you the one who is entitled to a lot of money? I am. All right.
See my hair, right?
Intuition, my mother has clothed you in the feeling of one. Remember that song by the Righteous Brothers years ago? You lost that love and feeling and it's gone, gone, gone. You gotta get back that love and feeling. Bring back that love and feeling. Oh, that love and feeling. Bring back that love and feeling, 'cause it's gone. Tell Dr. Frank they made me do it. But you gotta bring back that one. You've gotta feel that you're that one. Your mother says, I have your mother's clothes. In other words, whatever subjective moods and feelings you need to feel like the one who is entitled and who has the good that he desires. I have that feeling nature that I'll dress you in. And when the father says, come close, my son, that I may feel you, you ought to feel like the one who is entitled to the blessing, and the father feels you.
That's the
And
angle
then
right
the father
there.
also says something else. He says, come now and kiss me, my son. This also shows us that we need to approach the law of the Lord with affection and love. It's not telling us that one person stole another person's blessing. It's trying to show us, though, however, that even the wrong person can get the right blessing if they'll make themselves feel right. That even a person who ain't got no money can get some money if he'll make himself feel like he's got some money. So go around looking like, acting like, thinking like, and feeling like you are who you want to be. And you are saying, yes, I am that I am. And you see, you come to that ultimate realization, and Dr. screen.
All right.
The ultimate realization that brings money to you. Here it
Tell
is.
me where you at.
I am
What time
money.
is it? 9:51. 9:51 on a Sunday.
You see, I am is God.
First Sunday of March.
And whatever you add to I am, you become. Whatever you add to I am is added unto you. Did you get it? I'm going to have you repeat it after me. I am is God. Whatever you add to I am, you become. Whatever you add to I am is added unto you.
I am rich. I am wealthy.
That's why
I
we're
am
told in the
popular.
commandments, thou
I
shalt
am-
not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Y'all better get
The
with it.
theologians have no idea what that means. Every time you add something negative to
Yeah.
I am, you take the name of the Lord in vain.
Wow. You see, you say I'm live, but it ain't showing my thumbnail. I don't get that. I don't get that shit.
This
That's
is
why I
why
took
the
the
mystic
picture.
in the scriptures teaches us,
See
let
that shit
the
right
weak
there?
say, I
Maybe
am
it's me. I don't know.
strong. If you don't understand that, you will think that you're being told to lie.
Yeah, I figured this shit out.
But you see, it does not say, let the weak say, I am weak.
See that?
Why? Because I am weak is not the truth, is a lie. That's the lie. Another song on our Don't You Ever Sing That in Here is that I am weak, but thou art strong. You have just cursed. The dirtiest, lowest curse, you have taken the name of the Lord. You see, we've got to come to thou shalt not commit adultery. He wanted to stop you from catching AIDS. Well, now let me stop meddling and go back to teaching. There's a reason. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Every time you say I am, you take the name of the Lord.
You hear that?
Every mind takes the name of the Lord when it says I am. Let me hear everybody say I am. Now you're taking the name of the Lord. You have taken it. Now what are you going to do with it? Don't mess it up. I remember down south, we always said, and the older people always said to us, don't play with God. You see, people are unconscious of their power. Regardless of who you are, regardless of whether you know what you're doing or not, every mind takes the name of the Lord. Every mind takes the name of the Lord. Whenever you think consciously or subconsciously, you take the name of the Lord. You are dealing with the nature of the law. You are dealing with the nature of divine principle. And you are going to get a reaction. According to the nature of what you add to I am.
Nippy action. Alright, y'all, I'm not sure.
And you see, you come to that ultimate realization, and Dr. McCarthy is going to put this on the screen. The ultimate realization that brings money to you. Here it is. I am money.
You hear that? Say it with me.
You see, I am is God.
Money. Money.
And whatever you add to I am, you become. Whatever you add to I am is added unto you. Did you get it? I'm going to have you repeat it after me. I am is God. Whatever you add to I am, you become. Whatever you add to I am is added unto you. That's why we're told in the commandments, thou shalt not take the name.
Yeah.
The theologians have no idea what that means. Every time you add something negative to I am, you take the name of the Lord in vain.
You got the ganja.
This is why the mystic in the scriptures teaches us, let the weak say, I am. If you don't understand it, you're being told to lie. The truth, it is a lie. That's the lie.
Doing this shit.
Another song on our Don't You Ever Sing That in Here is that I am weak, but thou art strong. You have just cursed. The dirtiest, lowest curse, you have taken the name of the Lord in vain. And of course, the name of the Lord is the nature of the law. Now listen to the rest of the commandment. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. What does it mean? If you say, I am weak, the Lord of the law will give you weakness. That is the nature of the law. Let me hear you say, that is the nature of the law.
Folks in the crowd is
You see, we've got to come to understand God and the Lord as principle. Now, this is what the theologians don't want you all to get a hold of. You know, the Ten Commandments are not just a bunch of thou shalt nots because God wanted to stop you from having fun. Thou shalt not commit adultery. He wanted to stop you from catching AIDS.
I think you heard that shit already.
Well, now let me stop meddling and go back to teaching.
That's what we cut out.
You have taken it. Now what are you going to do with it? Don't mess it up. I remember down south, we always said, and the older people always said to us, don't play with God.
You heard that already.
Problems with it. And you know, that that's the reason sometimes people will say, oh, no, I don't think I want a lot of money because I've seen people with a lot of money have a lot of problems with it. Well, I'll tell you, I'd rather have the problems of having money than the problems of not having it. You hear the old jingle, things go better with coke, things go better with money, even trouble. Even trouble goes better with money.
TA. Who's TA, y'all?
So don't knock money. You see, that's another thing. And this is why you need to get the Master of Money course, because it tells you things to say about money and things that you're never to say about money. By the way, I'm going to give you this word. Here is a terrible word that a lot of people, almost everybody, uses concerning money that you need to wash right out of your vocabulary. Are you ready for this one? Okay, put it on the board for me, Terry. Write it big. You're never, ever again to say this about money. You can write it right under there, right on the side somewhere. Never again say spend money. Spend means it's gone. I've gotten rid of it. I'm not going to see it anymore. Is that what I've been saying? As the thought is formed in your mind, you're saying, get out of here, money. Don't ever think that way again. Now, let's have some confession and absolution here. Yes, we do have confession here, but we don't let you come into a booth and do it. You get your sins forgiven right out before everybody. How many of you used to use the term spend money? Let's see your hands. Don't do that anymore. Shake your head and look at the next person and say, don't do that anymore.
That's all I want to show y'all. Let's see that. Let me see if I can.
Whenever Jesus healed someone, he would say, now go and sin no more. See, you don't sin against money anymore. Something to put in your checkbook, something to say whenever you use money, whenever you pay money, so that it'll come back to you. Now, that tells us what circulate means. To circulate means what? Return to point of origin. Say that with me. Circulate means return to point of origin. All of the money that I use returns to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle of increase and enjoyment, thank God. That's a part of what I say at the offering at my church in New York. Oh, by the way, you may use the term concerning money used, but I prefer circulate. See, this way you've always got a hold of your money. It never gets away. It circulates. It goes over there and pays your light bill and comes back and brings more with it. Isn't that wonderful? Come on, stand up. We're going to talk to money right now. See, that's another thing, you know. Think of money as a psychic entity. Talk to it. Reverend Knight says that money has ears. Not only that, did you know that money is a woman? Somewhere in Reverend Ike's book, there's that old Irish proverb. And money swore an oath that nobody who did. So money is And you know what they say about a fool and his money?
we can hear this again.
Okay. All right. We're going to find a way to apply this. Now listen. We're going to speak in other tongues about money. From this moment on, we're going to speak in other tongues about money. What are we never going to say again about money? Never. Ever.
So the Bible info
Come on, let's
structure
make a declaration.
is dope.
Come on, you get your foot stomping here.
And the
Right
architecture,
here and right now.
motherfuckers are all out.
I cleanse my speech about that old dirty word about spending money. From this moment on, I will not spend my money. I circulate my money. The money that I pay my bills with. I circulate it. Whatever I do with money, I circulate it. And it returns to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle of increase and enjoyment. Thank God. All right, give yourselves a hand for that.
This motherfucker.
This is not going to change. Nothing is going to change until you change your mind. Mind is the formless space until you make it up. And the back represent the results of the way you use your mind. But as I say, everybody's on the back and they can't see the front. That's another meaning that God is.
Baby, if I put the light on, y'all can see.
Formless and invisible. People can't see. People can't see the cause. What is the cause?
God
They
damn.
can't see that, can they?
Right as fuck.
Yeah, Reverend, I'm teaching that mind science. That science of mind. I hear the Christian preachers. They're preaching it now all the time. And when they catch themselves, they deny it. See?
I don't even see
Boy,
it.
they are good at it now. I listened to some of them and said, oh, my ears hear it right. So again, as I say, this is another application of God being invisible. People don't see what their thoughts are doing. But the stone that the builders rejected is become the head of the corner.
The cornerstone, baby.
Watch it. And what is the stone that the builders rejected? Thought! The power of thought! No, Reverend Knight, don't tell me anything about thought. I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me anything about that mind science. I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me I've got to change. She's got to change. They've got to change. Have got to change. The black folks have got to change. The Jews have got to change. The Puerto Ricans have got to change. Don't tell me that I've got to change my mind. I reject that stone. My mother's got to change. My father's got to change. My brother's got to change. My sister's got to change. The church has got to change. You can forget that. The church ain't about to change. The church folks have been the same way since Moses.
Trying to save it, man. She's trying to.
See, that's why I don't get in any church bats. Honey, I come in that back door. And I go out that back door, and between the time I come in that back door and go out that back door, don't you never bring me no bad news. So don't bring me no bad news. You go around here waiting for people to change, waiting for the world to change. The world isn't going to change. That's why now the spiritual church, when I said church before, I meant the organizational church. But the spiritual church in the New Testament is the ecclesia, the called out ones. Those who have called their minds out of world thinking, out of world opinion, out of world belief. Those who stop dancing by the world's music.
My battery's
Those
kind of
who
low.
stop dancing by the world's tune.
Let's see how much.
Recession and depression,
26%.
unemployment, and the rest of all those ungodly things. And they are about the Father's business. And they know that the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. That's the spiritual church. But the organizational church, boy, look what they did the most. And see how they done my Lord? That's why 18 years ago, and I told you flat-footed right to your face, I gave up trying to save folks. I'm out of the soul-saving business. I will teach you, as Peter said on the day of Pentecost, how to save yourself from this untoward generation. And I want you to understand that that's what I come in here for. I come here to teach and to pray. If you want to learn, that's what I came here for. You want to raise hell, go to the bar and drink and raise your hell. And enjoy. But don't ever bring me no bad news. I'm not going to load my mind down to what this one's doing, what that one's doing, what the other one's doing. That's your business. I've got a full-time job trying to keep my business straight. And mine's
I
up.
see that. Yeah, I can't see it. Phone cut.
Some of you not saved. Now, honestly, you have to be careful again, you see, as you go through this world, that you don't get your mind full of stuff all the time. Because the world's always slinging it. They sling it out on the 11 o'clock news. They got some 24-hour stations now where they stop the beautiful music every hour and sling stuff. That's why I tell you every once in a while, change your phone number. You get to talking to folks, and if they get to slinging stuff, tell them they don't sling that stuff through my telephone. Don't put that in my ear. Because as we studied in the disciplines of the mind, the first discipline that was called by Jesus, the mastermind, was what? The discipline of hearing. He's learned to stop. Get out. All of this negative stuff becomes your adversary. Becomes enemies in your mind by wicked works. We'll have to restrict who gets this cassette. None but the pure in heart. People who've got good religion. Some people's religion can't stand strong gospel. Says, Reverend Ike, this is the gospel? Yes, honey, this is the gospel. Now, so all of your long-standing feuds and arguments and so on, get rid of them in a hurry. And from now on, whenever something comes up, get it settled on the spot. If you feel offended about something, settle it in your mind on the spot. What did I say? Whenever you feel offended about something, settle it on the spot. Now quote after me again. Great peace have they who love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. When you love the law of God, the law of good, you understand the law of mind, you know better than to go around taking offense. Because if you take offense, you're going to draw more offense. That goes into the rest of the meaning of this verse of Scripture. Agree quickly. The moment that a negative thought, emotion, or action appears, agree with God, agree with good, or it will cost you the utmost bothering.
Yeah, y'all can see this shit.
If you become offended or upset and you don't settle it on the spot, it will cost you your peace of mind and bring forth a
See
chain
how
of
long it lasts.
that is the adversary.
You know you.
Praise God. The spirit will be back. People end up in the hospital.
Alright, I can't go too far, it's gonna chip out.
Behind heart trouble. What do you think's behind cancer? Negative thoughts. Negative thoughts, attitudes, and ideas. Don't represent the fact. See, I
I'm not sure y'all over here though. I can't see though.
The things which follow the negative thoughts of man. Let's get to the front part. Let's get to the faith. Let's get to the formless part. And let's form God. Let's form good. There again is a verse of scripture that says, let Christ be formed in you. Say that with me. Let Christ is given spiritual understanding from the mastermind. And we have in the Gospel of John, the 14th chapter, the 5th through the 6th verses, a dialogue between the disciple Thomas and Jesus, the mastermind. Thomas saith unto him, unto Jesus, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? Jesus said unto him, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Ladies and gentlemen, in this encounter between...
Hold on, I think I got a better one for y'all. Thing with this though.
Class from what many of you are accustomed to experiencing.
Oh yeah.
This is a teaching
Watch some
church.
stars with me.
As a matter of fact, I think of this church itself as a school, because this is really what it is. Here we call our philosophy the science of living. We don't have a dogma, but rather philosophy, the science of living, which sometimes I more correctly call the science of self-awareness. And I love to do the introductory statement on this. Science, from the original Greek word gnoskai, meaning to know. So then the science of living meaning to know how to live. This is very important. You know, it's quite a sad thing to go all the way through this sake of life on earth without ever learning how to live. And too many people are doing just that, going all the way through this earth experience without ever really learning how to live, without learning really who they are. I had a very interesting 3 3/4 hours last Saturday night in Beverly Hills with a group of medical doctors of various specialties, psychiatrists among them,
See that hovering up and down, right?
and attorneys. One gentleman there was in charge of the educational system for a large city that I will not name. And we were talking about the importance of people coming to know themselves. So this outstanding educator went so far as to say that in school, when kids have problems, even with their spelling, it relates to their self-knowledge, to their self-image. I found that very interesting. Now this evening, our foremost subject is the glory of the cross. And I'd like to read a text to you from the 6th chapter of Romans, the 6th and 7th verses. And now that you're all comfortably seated, we're going to stand and read this together for emphasis.
I'll see that shit right there.
I may put you through
It's my tray.
different changes here from what you're accustomed to, either in church or in class, but there's a reason for that also.
Space
I'm
God.
always
This is the frosted.
aware of the fact that we are working with the subconscious mind,
I can't see.
educating it
Yeah, I
and
can't see.
re-educating it, conditioning it and reconditioning it.
Zoomed all the way in. That's right.
And you see, when you stood up, your subconscious mind also
Right.
came to a new point of attention because it knows that it's about to hear something important. And so now, from the 6th chapter of the book of Romans, the 6th verse, and I'm going to have you repeat this after me as I shall pause for emphasis. Our old man is crucified with him. That the body of sin might be
Which I
destroyed.
think I'm playing.
And we're going to read that once more for emphasis. Our
Space
old
God.
man is crucified with him.
Frosted cakes.
That the body of sin might be destroyed. All right, you may be seated. This evening we're talking about the glory of the cross. Most of us have heard about the old rugged cross. I remember when I was growing up, my mother would sing about the old rugged cross. One line says, I will cling to the old rugged cross. And as you've heard me say before, I clung to the old rugged cross, and it kept getting more rugged every day. But then I remembered that that was not the end of that stanza. That
What y'all
was
know
not
about
the
them
end of that
gummies?
sentence in the song. But the song goes
Sour
on to say,
Patch.
not only I will cling to the old rugged cross, but
It's that grape right
and
there.
exchange it someday for a crown.
Gummies.
And that's where I saw the light.
Stoner Patch
I
right
said,
there.
aha! There is a point in my
Gotta stay.
experience where I am to exchange
up
this
in this.
rugged cross, this heavy cross, this burdensome cross for a crown. It says someday, so that leaves it up to me to choose which day. And I choose this day. Growing up in Christianity, I always thought also that people made Good Friday too much of a day of doleful mourning. There was too much of this weeping around the cross. And so I began to search for some greater meanings to the event which we call the crucifixion. And I'm going to share with you now some of my interpretations.
I knew there was one
The
missing.
glory of the cross
It's the one I want to try right here.
is that it symbolizes
Two flavors,
the
baby.
crossing out
Pineapple, peach.
of negative self-identity. And I'm going to have you write this statement. The glory of the cross is that it symbolizes the crossing out
Alright.
of negative self-identity. I want to be repetitious on this and have you repeat this phrase after me. The crossing out of negative self-identity. And when we say crossing out, I'm going to have you make the sign of the cross so that you will now come to a new understanding of what it's all about. Come on. The crossing out of negative self-identity. Once again, with the sign of the cross, the phrase that I've just given you. Come on. The crossing out of negative self-identity.
It won't even let me put the light on no more.
And here now is another statement that I wish you to write. Negative self-identity must
What
die
happened to the flash?
that we might live. You see, already you're coming to a greater understanding of the crucifixion.
Stuck together and shit.
And in the crucifixion, correctly understood, it is negative self-identity that dies that we might live. Negative self-identity must die that we might live. Repeat that with me. Negative self-identity must die that we might live. Now that's the truest and the greater meaning of the old Christian statement, he died that we might live. What is the he that must die? Negative self-identity must die that we might live. You see, a person cannot live abundantly unless negative self-identity dies. Let's take this from the point of poverty for a moment. The poverty self-identity in the mind of an individual must die that the person might prosper. The failure self-identity must die that the person might succeed. The sad self-identity must die that the person might live happily. Now, what of some of these negative self-identities which must die in order that we might live? I just named some of them after a certain fashion. Some people have, for example, a sick self-identity. And the sick self-identity must die that we might live in health. And to give you an example of a person with a sick self-identity, I point out to you again the man at the pool who waited for the troubling of the water that he might get into it and be healed. I just love to use him for an example, and quite often I do. You remember the Bible tells us that there was a pool of water in Jerusalem by the temple where the sick and the maimed and the halt would congregate, because at a certain season an angel would come down from heaven and trouble the water, and whoever stepped in first after the water was troubled or blessed by the angel would be healed. And there was a man lying by this pool waiting for the troubling of the water. But before the water was troubled or blessed, Jesus came by. And Jesus said to this man, "Do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be well?" And you notice that right away the man didn't even say, "Yes, I would like to be healed. Yes, I would like to be well." But the first thing that he said when he opened his mouth was, "Well, you know, I've been here 38 years sick." That's a dead giveaway. That man had what? A sick self-identity. Can you imagine this? Here is Jesus himself walking by the pool saying to him, "Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be well?" As a matter of fact, he was rather comfortable in his sickness. He was rather smug and snug in his sick self-identity. And he had given himself over to such a chronic case of sick self-identity that the idea of being well, being whole, being healed didn't even faze him. He'd rather make an excuse and stay sick. Now, it sounds like I'm describing some people you know, doesn't it? see, sometimes it's so convenient just to be sick and have that disability and collect checks from it. Mailman comes to your house the first day of every month, brings that check. All you have to do is lay there and groan, grunt, complain, and keep your sick self-identity. Fortunately, Jesus, being a master of mind science, spiritual technology, understood what to do. Spoke to the man with the speed of lightning. The word of command, take up your bed and walk. Right in the middle of his complaint. Take up your bed and walk.
Y'all can type in the chat if y'all want.
Kind of shocked his subconscious
If y'all want to.
sick image. Before it could complain again, the man was on his feet walking. Beware of developing a sick self-identity. And if you've had a certain complaint so long that you've developed a sick self-identity, that sick self-identity must die in order that you might live in health. Now, let us consider for a moment those who may be suffering from a sad self-identity. I'm sure that we all can think of someone that we've encountered at some point in time and space who make a career out of being miserable. And not only do they make a career out of being miserable, they try to make other people miserable with them. And if you will not be miserable with them, you're not their friend. Some of these people may be blood relatives.
You should know it.
I know someone who told me once, Reverend Ike, you've been telling us to take vacations so that we could visit whenever we wanted to, different parts of the world and different parts of the country. And I've decided I'd like to go back home to see my old uncles and aunties and my family. But I just remember that I've got some of them down there every time I see them. All they do is complain. And she said, so I've decided when I go on my vacations and to visit that I'm not going to visit them. You know, you have to be very careful of people who have chronic, sad self-identity. And this is why I've given you these words for your guidelines. Always in your heart say to people, if you won't let me pull you up, I'm not going to let you pull me down. If you're not going to let me share my joy with you, I'm not going to let you make me miserable. I'm not interested in sadness. I'm not interested in the blues. This should be your attitude. And there does come a point when you just release people after you have tried to share your joy with them. You've tried to share your good with them, and they don't accept it, then that's a point for you to just ease on down the road. But if you truly want to be happy, then the sad self-identity must die that you might live in happiness. Just as the scripture we just read stated, our old man is crucified with him that the body of sin might be destroyed. And the old man is that old sad self-identity, that old sick self-identity, that old failure self-identity must be crucified, must die, that you might live. Another thing, some people with these sad self-identities seem to think somehow or the other that perhaps there's some kind of virtue, a holiness in being saved. Some people seem to think that they can't serve God if they're too happy. Some people think it's a sin to be too happy. Oh, how can you be so happy when there are millions starving? How can you enjoy your food when other people don't have any? Well, hell, if I starved, it wouldn't help them.
Yeah, that's facts. That caught me off guard, yeah.
Would just be another starving person in the world. Wouldn't solve a damn thing. Excuse me.
Okay,
You do not help to cheer people up by being sad. Even in the Old Testament, we're told the joy of the Lord is your strength.
I look like
And it is important that every day of your life you feel and practice the joy of the Lord. Away with sadness, away with the blues, away with unhappiness. As a matter of fact, medical authorities now tell us that perhaps the greatest illness in the whole world that causes other illnesses is depression. It is unhealthy to be depressed. It is unhealthy to be sad. It is unhealthy to be unhappy.
preach.
Remember that. The sad self-identity must die that you might live and experience the joy of the Lord. The hateful self must die that you might live in love. Here again, there are those people who hang on to their hatred with all their might. And I know some of you are saying, oh, but Reverend, I don't hate anybody. I don't have any hatred. Maybe not, but some of you are hanging on to hatred. You know, I told you about that in that sermon, Forgive and Forget. And hatred is just as bad as hatred. They both will do you in. You must die to hatred and to hatred, that you might live the abundant life. So if you're still hurting over something that somebody did to you, you better get that cleared out of your mind, that you might experience the love of God. Some of you may have had some bad experiences with people, and you're full of fear. So that you're like David was at one point, where he expressed himself and he said, I said in my haste, all men are liars. And there's too much of that attitude sometimes. People will say, hey, nobody's no good. And if you feel that way, that nobody's no good, it's because you're no good. Here again, I quote Reverend Ike's celebrated lecture, I meet no one but me. And I'll tell you, it is a danger signal when you get to the point that you actually feel that nobody's any good. You are in trouble. But yet there are people who are totally bitter like that. Nobody's any good. Everybody's dishonest. Everybody's out to get you. Well, that's why they get you. So why complain? You see, so many times people think and speak these things on themselves, and when they happen, they wonder why. And honestly, if you have that kind of unloving attitude and belief in your heart that nobody's any good, you are really in trouble, because you're going to draw people to you that are going to do you in because you believe that, you see. Reverend Ike also has has another tape. I don't know whether it's here or not, but it's titled, I Meet No One But Me. That's a heavy trip. You see, everybody that you meet, even the SOB is you. You are your own devil, you are your own God, and none can decide the path you must trod. And none can save you from error or sin unless you listen to the Spirit within. All right? So those negative people you met are telling you of your negatives that you need to work on. And let me say this, and then I'll have to move on from this one. But this is very important because a lot of people have, as I said, I've seen them come into this teaching. And they make a tremendous demonstration. And boy, they're on cloud nine, like this lady said she was before she left out of here. But during the break, she met some negative people. Those were your own negatives that you stirred up. And you really don't know how many negatives you've got until you stir them up with your positives, you see. And you got to deal with lessons, blessings, and tests. The Gospels tell us that Jesus fasted 40 days. And after he had fasted 40 days, the first thing he met was the devil. If I would ever fast 40 days, I would never expect to see that fella again. But you see, the fact is, the more spiritual minded you become, and when you tend towards spiritual things, then you really stir up those negatives within yourself, and you have to meet them and correct them. Every soul must meet its devils. You must meet all of your negatives. Oh, God. Reverend Ike, I sure don't feel, I felt good before, too, but I don't feel... See, but at least you know what's happening. Now you can say, well, this is my devil, and so I'm going to straighten him out. Let me hear you say that. You got to meet him.
This is my devil.
And you see, Jesus met, and one of the devils that Jesus met was the devil of self-doubt, because it is said that the devil said to him, if you be the Son of God, turn these stones to bread. And notice that you can tell when the devil comes along. You have to bear with me. You understand I'm going between fundamentalism and esoteric science all at the same time, but it'll come out right. The devil said, if you be the Son of God. And Reverend Ike says in those tapes, one thing that you never do, you never if with the devil.
Hypothetical shit.
Some of you are not saved. Never. Now, where was that devil coming from? From the area of self-doubt.
Y'all, this just cut some
To
of the
get
live.
the
I just
man of the
noticed.
mind to doubt his divine sonship or his divine paternity. That's where the devil comes in one attack. Your self-doubt. Let me hear you say the devil of self-doubt. But you see, you got to meet that devil. But when you meet that devil, that's when you need to know the word. And you see, Jesus defeated that devil of self-doubt with the word. He said, get behind me, Satan, it is written. You shall not tempt the Lord your God. In other words, he was saying, devil, I am God to you, and I'm not going to let you kick my behind. I'm going to kick yours. See why I don't let you meta magicians have those tapes? Anyway, everybody's got to meet his devils, and you'll meet your devils in various people and in various things, and you've got to meet them at some point or the other. And during that particular series, and that was about 3 years ago, about 3 summers ago now, I think, I did something that I am having to deal with. I stood there and I said, whatever it is in me that needs to be straightened out, I said, come on, I'm ready for you. Matter of fact, what I said, come on, mother, I'm ready. And did they ever come? The stuff came up that I can't even tell you about. You know, I started finding out a whole lot of things that I needed to straighten out. A whole lot of people went out of my life. Okay. So don't despair when you meet your devils. You say, well, this is something that I need to clean up. Let me hear you say, this is something I need to clean up.
You need to clean it up.
You know, just stay prayerful and clean it up. Now, the lesson that we are going to study at this time has a double subject. I'm going to have you shout it back at me.
I want to put on the light.
It's yours.
That's some bullshit.
Say that to the person
What is
on
this?
both sides of you. Take it, it's yours.
Light, light, light.
The other title that I gave this lesson is How to Possess Your Promised Land Now. Because you're going to find out here in the text that this was the consensus
Why
of
is it
faith.
jumping like that?
Let us go up immediately. Some of you wait until some sweet day to go up. But you'll find out that the mind of faith said, what? Let us go up immediately. For we are well able to take it. Let's not mess around here crawling and groveling in the dust. Now, I'm not going to read this whole text here, but I told you to turn to it in your Bibles and to keep your Bibles open there, and you can study the whole text. It's in the 13th chapter of the book of Numbers, the 1st through the 33rd verse. I think that's the entire chapter. And I'm going to read for you now the 27th through the 33rd verse, and we'll get the sense of it. Perhaps a little preface to the reading. Moses and the children of Israel were on the brink of the promised land. And Moses, the leader of God's people, sent a committee to spy out the land. Now, that's why I've never done too much with committees. I tried it in this church. Now, all committees are not bad, but this one was a blip. Because you see, in a committee, you have sometimes people of different minds, and some have hidden agendas. Someone has said, never underestimate the power of a committee to mess up a good idea. So Moses sent a committee of the children up to spy out the land. So go on up there and look at the land and find out what kind of people are there. If they're bad motor scooters. And find out if there's fruit in the land. A rich land. What are the products, the produce thereof? Come back and give a report. Here, I'm going to start the 26th verse. Begins the report of the committee. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, we came unto the land whither thou sent us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless is the but. But the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. In other words, this land is just full of bad motor scooters. It flows with milk and honey, all right. It's good. It's got what we want. This is what God promised us. But some bad folks are in our way. Does that sound familiar? Beginning again at the 30th verse. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses, the bad news committee. Some of you can think now, you may have had some people in your life that were just bad news. That's why I have told you, don't always tell people your vision. You've got to be careful who you tell your aspirations and your ambitions to, because there are a lot of bad news bears out there. I like to tell folks what I'm going to do after it's already done. Then I'll be like Gene Autry. I won't worry because it makes no difference now. So Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. In other words, he was saying to the Bad News Committee, shut up! Who are you listening to? As I said before, there are voices always talking to the mind. Listen, your mind is always being talked to, consciously, unconsciously, and subconsciously. Day and night, voices talk to the mind. This is why you have to take over and use your power of divine self-mastery and tell your mind what to think, and tell your feelings how to feel, and tell your body how to react. Notice Caleb here. Right in the middle of all of that bad news, what did he say? He said, let us go up at once. But I like what is said before that. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses. Moses is the leader of God's people. Moses, the people had to be still. And in your mind, there are a lot of different people's voices that you've got to still before you can possess your promised land. Who are you listening to? Be still and know that I am God. And Caleb cut right through all of that foolishness and said, let us go up at once. Don't waste any more time listening to bad news. Don't waste any more time listening to doubts and fears and worries. Because if you do continue to listen to negatives, whatever the mind listens to over a prolonged period, it will tend to believe. You see, the subconscious mind is a listener and a believer. What it is constantly, it will believe and act in accordance therewith and bring it into manifestation. This is why you got to be careful who you're listening to and what you are listening to. The mind must be commanded to listen only to the word of God, the word of good. Again, this is why Jesus, the master man, the mastermind, first disciplines the faculty of what? Hearing. You see how important that is? So if you are going to be a master in life, so that you can possess the good that God has ordained for you.
See that?
You are going to have to discipline your ear. Because as I say, and I say it again and again,
he disappeared and shit. Hold on, you'll see that. Hold on.
Everybody's after your mind, and whoever gets the mind gets the behind.
I'm tripping.
Everybody's talking at me. Everybody's after your mind. Tell you, no, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. You know you can't because you're too black, you're too white, you're too rich, you're too poor, you're too young, you're too old. Well, to get fundamentalist for a moment, make up your mind, devil. Again, listen to the voice of Caleb. And he said, let us go up at once and possess it. For we are well able to overcome it. We've got the power. I've got the power. Never mind the giants. Never mind the Amalekites and the Jebusites and the bad motor scooters. I've got the power. All power in heaven and in earth is given unto me. I will not stand here shaking and trembling before the giants of fear and unbelief. Let me get going at once. This is a very good mind technique, and please catch this quickly. Get in the habit, if you find doubt, fear, and negatives talking to your mind, go up at once. Are you catching what I mean? Stop the voices of negativity and doubt and worry and fear at once. Don't dilly-dally with the devil.
Dilly-dally.
See, that's how some people get caught, the dilly-dally. Kind of listed, well, you know that is reasonable, you know. Well, you know that is so. They sure don't like me. I did think they act kind of funny. Say to all of the faculties of your mind, what? Let us go up. See, because when you're there listening and having a conference with all of the voices of doubt, worry, and unbelief, in the first place you are down below the level of consciousness where you belong. Everything happens, operates on its correlative level of consciousness. But when you find yourself being barraged by all of the negative suggestions and messages, say again to the faculties of your mind, what? Let us go up at once. Flee as a bird to the mountain. We are well able to overcome it. Starting at the 31st verse. But the man that went up with him said, no, forget it. We be not able to go up against the people. But they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search, it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof. They're boogeymen that will get us. By the way, I've told you this several times before, and I can't tell you too much. Don't ever tell your small children these boogeyman stories, because that's what's locked deep in the subconscious memory banks of some of you now. It's the same old boogeyman that Mama used to scare you with. You see what they're saying here? All these boogeymen. Oh, we can't do that. There are boogeymen there. Lead us up. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature, big motor scooters. And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants. Listen to this. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. So we were in their sight. Your boogeymen see you as you see yourself. You need to write that down, and I'm going to tell you what I mean if you don't know what I mean. Repeat it after me. Your boogeymen see you exactly as you see yourself. Your fears see you exactly as you see yourself. Notice, he said, we were in our own eyes as grasshoppers. And they even got that into the religious hymn of the church. For such a worm as I. And because we saw ourselves as grasshoppers, they saw us as grasshoppers. Others see us objectively as we see ourselves subjectively. Isn't that interesting? That's the last verse, I believe, in that chapter. And really, this is like the bottom line. How do you see yourself? In your heart of hearts, how do you see yourself? How do you feel about yourself? Do you feel that you are a victim? Do you feel that you're just at the mercy of circumstances and conditions? Yeah, no. Well, if you do, an old mangy dog that would run from somebody else would bite you. And you know, we're told never run from a bad dog. That's the first thing, that's the wrongest thing you can do, unless you see you can get over the other side of the fence fast enough. One of my neighborhoods, everybody, I guess, has dogs. When I go, I carry my rod and my staff. In case some of those bad ones don't want to recognize the presence of God in me. It said, the presence of God in me. The presence of God in you, you motor scooter, you. So how do I see myself. You see, again, this goes back to what Reverend Ike says. Life meets me how? Just like a bee. You go through life seeing yourself as a grasshopper. Everybody else will see you as a grasshopper. You go through life seeing yourself as a worm. Everybody else will see you as a worm. And what do people do with worms? They step on it. Jesus said, I and my Father are one. And Jesus was not only speaking for himself, Jesus was speaking the truth of every man. The truth of every man is that God in man is man. Man in God is God. And each person may say, God in me is me. I want you to shout this with your hands and your voices with me. God in me is me. Come on. God in me is me. Some of you didn't know that before, but this is the truth that sets you free. When you come to know who and what you are in God and who and what God is in you. Now let's for a moment talk about this word God. In our philosophy, which we call the science of living, we describe God as the presence of unlimited good in me and in everyone. And we're stating this in the first person. God is the presence of unlimited good in me and in everyone. Together, please, with your hands and voices. God is the presence of unlimited good in me and in everyone. This is the way that you come to an experience of the goodness of life, by believing and knowing this. Believe that you can be and do and have the good you desire. You will never get any further in life than your belief about yourself. And let me stop here for a moment. You know what the trouble with many people is? A lot of you are troubled and are having problems because you're upset about what other people think about you. Upset you a bit right here and use an emphatic word which may not become a clergyman on national TV. But please listen. You are not going to get anywhere in life, spiritually or otherwise, until you come to that point where you don't give a damn what people think about you. I'm sorry, Pharisees. As long as you worry about what other people think about you, you will be mediocre. You will be worried to death. The hair will fall out of your head. Worrying over what other people think about you. It only matters what you believe about yourself. And I want to give you that as an affirmation in the first person. It only matters what I believe about myself. Together with hands and voices. It only matters what I believe about myself. Let me tell you another secret. I'm a bit leery of people who get upset over what other people say about them. Because if you get upset about it, it makes me think that maybe you're guilty. That you waste worrying about what people say about you and think about you, you could use that time and energy in making your success in life. So believe in yourself. Believe in yourself as a healthy person, as a happy person. Believe in yourself as a successful person. Believe that you can and you will. But until you believe you can, you won't. Now, everywhere the Bible tells us to believe, it means believe in yourself. Believe in your divine self. Everywhere the Bible tells us to believe, it means believe in God in you. How many of you believe in God in you? I'm not talking about God in the sky, but God in you. If you believe in God in you, I'm going to give you a personal affirmation about this. I believe in the presence and the power of God in me. Together, I believe in the presence and power of God in me. All right, I feel you turning on. Give me a few more moments. You must believe that God in you is for you. You would be surprised to know the thousands of letters that I get from people who believe that God is against them. I will never forget, a man spoke to me in tears about 2 years ago, asking me to pray for his little son, who was about 3 years old. The boy was in the hospital having spasms and fits. And he said, Reverend, I want you to pray for my little son. He says, because, and I'll tell it just like he said it, he said, my pastor told me that because I did wrong, God is taking it out on my son. Oh, you should have seen my curly hair stand up straight. You know, you have to watch this jazz that people put out in the name of God and in the name of religion. Some of you, your biggest hindrance is your religious belief. I said to him, I said, sir, with all due respect to your eminent pastor, with his DDs and LLDs, with all due respect to all of the precious doctrines of the church, with all due respect to all of the ecclesiastical dogmas of the world, God does not do spite work. And this will bless many of you here, because I can discern that there's some of you in here right now. You honestly believe that God is punishing you. You honestly believe that God is taking it out on you. Psychiatrists call this a guilt complex. And as long as you're under a horrible guilt complex, you are condemning yourself and you can never succeed and be happy. So I want you to know right here and right now that God does not do spite work. Let's shout that together. God does not do spite work. If you want to be forgiven, forgive yourself and everybody else, and you're forgiven. You through you. I'm going to put that in the first person and have you shout it with me. God forgives me through me. Come on. God forgives me through me. Regardless of how wrong you may have been, forgive yourself. Forgive all others, and you are forgiven. Go free and succeed and be happy, for life can be beautiful.
All right, y'all. That's it for tonight. Y'all have a good night. I'm about to finish my drink and get my sleep on. Love.